Advance Wars. Well, you just pointed out you tried to play this on stream, and Spectrum said no. But so game. This game has been waiting patiently to release due to some real life events, and it is finally released as of I guess
Right.
like
Yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah. Um, to an 81, which that's not bad. A score of 81 is a good score, so that's something to be happy with. How is the game so far?
Um, for me, and obviously I'm someone who I played all four Advance Wars games that released back in the early 2000s. The first two is what is included in this package, Advance Wars and Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. There is also Dual Strike and Days of Ruin, which were released on the DS.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those games, in my opinion, well, so Advance Wars 2 is the best game of the four, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. Dual Strike was a cool idea, but they like they basically they kind of juiced it up too much. Like they added more COs. It was the same cast of COs, and they added more. There was a new story. They changed the villain, and the new villain was not nearly as like cool or interesting as Sturm was, who's the villain of Advance Wars 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they added tag powers, which are just busted. Which is you basically have two COs on your team at a time, and you can swap between them like every turn if you want. You don't have to, but when you charge both of their CO power meters up, you basically get two turns in a row where
Oh,
you're using the first COs. When you tag power, use whoever's in front, use their superpower first, and then you swap, and then you use the other person. So you get two turns in a row, both on superpower,
right.
which is incredibly broken, basically. So basically, whoever gets their tag power first wins the game, and like that's it.
Okay.
So, um, yeah. So tag was a little much. I mean, it made sense. Like it was a relatively early DS game, so Advance Wars Dual Strike DS. They did a lot of the DS stuff with
With that
the
one.
early DS games, especially. Um, so yeah, that one like it's still good, but I think they took it a little too far, to be honest. And then Days of Ruin was honestly it was a soft reset. Like it was a different world, different characters. The basic mechanics were the same, but they added some different units and they changed the mechanics a little bit. And that one, in my opinion, was just not as good as the old one.
Okay.
Um, but anyways, back to Reboot Camp. So yeah, this is the first two games, the two GBA games, so it doesn't include either the DS games. And for me, someone who played and loved these games, especially the GBA games, and especially Advance Wars 2, this is pretty much everything I wanted out of this, personally.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things about it that are not there and that are missing that is kind of a head scratcher why it's missing,
Yep.
but the CO, like they did new art for all the COs, right? And I think for the most part they all look amazing. They look similar enough to the old ones, but just like more colorful, and just yeah, the CO art is awesome. They remixed the entire soundtrack, and I love the Advance Wars soundtrack, and they, in my opinion, knocked it out of the park on the soundtrack. It is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the old, GBA MIDI and just sprucing it up with it's a lot of like rock and metal, and
Yeah,
like
sure.
they just take something that was on the thing and you just like throw an electric guitar on it for like Andy's things going okay, so it's really good. um and like yeah, the new there's and yeah, the people are mixed on the map graphics and the unit graphics, they made it kind of look like a board game and like toy soldiers and toys. So people are mixed on that. I don't mind it myself. I think it looks pretty decent. The animations are nice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't mind the aesthetic, but there are people who don't like it. So that's fair enough. You know, that's a matter of opinion. Um and yeah, the game's there. Both campaigns are there, and they're relatively I don't think they're exactly the same. I think they made a few adjustments here and there, but for the most part, they're the same as they were. So it's quite a faithful remake, and even some of the things like Max, for example, who's the big guy sitting in the back of the tank
Mm-hmm.
on this image, is super overpowered in Advance Wars 1, and they just left it. Like Max is still just overpowered as heck in Advance Wars 1. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's an awesome remake. If you played these games and liked them or loved them as a kid, I think you will love this package. Um, Now on to the missed opportunities and disappointing
Okay.
section, and it's mostly in one area, and that is online play. And I guess the map design room, but that's kind of linked to online play.
Yep.
Um, for online play, there is no matchmaking. You can only play with a friend.
Okay.
And just so you know, Advance Wars Days of Ruin, which was the last Advance Wars game that came
Yep.
out, the one that was a soft reset,
Yep.
and was on the DS,
Yeah.
had online play on the DS. And while DS online play was crap and there was hackers abound and you could not play a fair match, regardless, there was matchmaking in
Yeah.
that game and you could play against a random person.
Yeah.
You would run into someone who was cheating and would take 10 turns before you took one. So it wasn't really fun. It wasn't really functional, but at least you could do it.
Yeah. Sure.
This is a Switch game in 2023, and they have online play, but you can only play with a friend. There's no lobbies. There's no. I'm sure you can play like 4 players if you invited like 4 friends to a match or something,
Yeah.
or 3 other friends to a match. But there is no matchmaking whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you can supposedly upload maps to online, so you can play custom maps because there's a design room where you can create your own maps.
Okay.
But the maps can only be a certain size, and which is relatively small for them to be able to be uploaded and played online. So you can't make a very big map.
Okay. This game was delayed like over a year. You'd think they would be like, okay,
I got
well,
a feeling they did next to no work on it since April last year. They
yeah.
just shelved it and then released it.
Okay.
So as far as the single player experience goes, which is mainly what Advance Wars was, obviously you could play multiplayer in Advance Wars like with a link cable on the GBA.
Yeah, sure.
It's quite good. The campaigns are great. The remixed music, the CO redesigns. Again, some of the maps have been changed a little bit. The graphics look good.
Yep.
The new like CO power animations and like the presentation is excellent. And the spirit of the old game is there, and the game is still just like as cool and challenging. Like, you know, if you're playing this for the first time, these games, especially Advance Wars 1, is not easy. Like it's a relatively difficult game. And that's even on just like the normal difficulty. They also did add like a casual difficulty, so they added an easy mode, which is good because, as I said, the games are not very easy, especially if you're not like used to playing them. For an Advance Wars veteran, I'm kind of blowing through the Advance Wars 1 campaign, but that's fine. I don't mind. But I believe there is I think they call it Elite in this, but and this existed in the other games. There's a hard campaign after you complete the normal mode campaign, so there's basically a hard mode for
Yeah,
both
there's
campaigns.
an unlocked hard mode. Yeah.
So yeah, the single player package is, and the war room is there, which is another single player mode where basically there's just extra maps to play. Single player maps where you pick a CO and you play against you're playing against a certain CO on a set design map.
Yeah.
Play against the AI. So yeah, all that stuff is great, and there's a gallery with like a sound room and art. You know, you can buy the music, the art, so you can look at the cool art and listen to the music within the game. All that stuff is great. The online effort is embarrassing. It's like I don't understand.
I mean, yeah, it's I don't know. With Switch games, I'm not surprised if something doesn't use online well. I'm just like, okay, it's on Switch.
But it's like they didn't even try. They're just like, yeah, you can play with a friend. That's it.
Yep. I don't know. Either they definitely shelved this while it was waiting to be released, right? They definitely didn't touch this thing for over a year. Because if they would,
maybe they
did
some minor bug fixes, but they definitely didn't add any new features or anything like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm for me, like, seeing a game like this not have I know before it did have some, and the last game had some PvP functionality for lobbies. With games like this, to be honest, I'm like, oh, it didn't have a multiplayer lobby system? Okay. Whatever. I have like no expectation for multiplayer in these cases, particularly just because it's on Switch. It's I don't think this game, I don't know how well this game is going to sell, to be perfectly frank with you. It's like, would adding that have been worth spending the extra effort is the question.
Probably not, because all the people who were going to buy it probably were going to buy it anyways, even if that was not great, but it would definitely extend like the shelf life of the game, which I guess like the company doesn't really care about that. But
yeah, that's the thing, is I don't know. It's a good question.
There is I don't know how large it is, but there is at least a community online of people that like there's a website. It's called Advance Wars by Web that allows you to play Advance Wars multiplayer online against other people.
Right.
And it like from Advance Wars 2, or you can play Dual Strike rules as well, without like tag powers. And so there is a subset of the community at least that like really wants that competitive multiplayer aspect, and they they seemed to just not care about that side of it at all.
No.
Which for a strategy, like, to me it's weird because it's a like I don't care that much personally. I'm not into the competitive aspect of these games. I like the single player, and I probably won't play multiplayer. But again, there is a chunk of the community who likes that, and you know, the competitive Advance Wars is going to stay on Advance Wars by Web, it seems, because this game does not have it
until basically. Nintendo finds it.
If this game was really popular, by the way, Nintendo would have shut that site down in a heartbeat. They would have shut that shit down immediately. They would have shut it down as fast as they shut down Breath of the Wild modding videos.
Oh god.
That was we didn't add this there, but Nintendo, after the Tears of the Kingdom trailer, got a massive hard-on.
Yeah.
For shutting down Breath of the Wild video content, that it wasn't just the normal game.
They got a hate boner for Zelda YouTubers.
Yeah. After Tears of the Kingdom, they're like, all right, we've waited long enough. These modders, shut them down. That was bad. Like, side topic, but like, if this game was popular, Nintendo would have shut all that crap down. So I just think Nintendo's like, this one's like a small thing. If it does well in any capacity, we're great. I just don't think online multiplayer might have been really something they pushed for from the devs team. They're probably like, oh, you don't have multiplayer online? Just have it so you can play friends, and that's it. We don't care. I mean, at least you can play friends. Like, that's. I realize that's like probably the bare minimum, but at least you can do that.
It's bare. But like, how hard would it be to implement like basic matchmaking and like lobby system? It can't be that hard. I
don't know, because you have to account for the fact. Well, I guess you already had the system for if you're playing a friend, you already have the system in place for playing somebody online without using the cables, right? So you have like some system in place for that. You just have to have a I guess you'd have to handle a little bit more of a load with having a lobby system. So maybe your server cost would increase.
Yeah.
That's about it. I mean, you have to implement the whole system within the game, which that's something, but I guess the like server cost would also be something to think about, but I gotta be honest with you, I can't imagine the server cost would have been that much.
Yeah, probably not.
I can't imagine it would have been much, so.
I did see a thing, and obviously this isn't numbers, but apparently this game, I saw a screenshot. I think it was this morning that like
Yep.
this game was like it was like fourth on the eShop best selling right now. So
That's good.
below stuff you expect to be like Mario Kart's still number one. Everyone loves Mario
Yeah.
Kart, and
It was a game.
I think Battle Network was number two.
Yeah, Battle Network was kind of a big one.
And then 3 was I think it was a Mario game. It might have been 3D World or
3D
something
World,
like that. I
something like
don't remember.
Yeah, Battle Network we
But this
didn't
this was
talk about,
fourth,
but
so it's selling like again. You don't know what that means in terms of numbers, but like that's decent in terms of numbers. You would think for this. I don't think this game's gonna sell gangbusters, but you know,
it'll sell decent enough.
yeah. I hope that it sells decent enough that like, well, my hope is that it sells well enough that Nintendo goes, okay, maybe it's actually worth either remastering some of the other games or let's just make another. Like we'll just make another Advance Wars. We'll make a new game. That's what I hope for.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Well, it reviewed well, and if it sells pretty well, they might feel incentivized.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by the review. Like, this score is about what I expected for this. I know, like, 8 is kind of like a very average score for games to get a lot of the time, but, like, this is a very, like, kind of by the books remake. As I said,
Yeah.
like, the remake stuff was done very well. It looks really good. It sounds really good. It's very faithful to the original games, and the original games, like, they're good. They're good games. They're fun. They're very fun, very actually deep strategy games. And if you like that, it's kind of hard to say that this is like a bad. It would be hard to give this a bad review, right? Because it's just like, yeah, these games hold up. They're fun. They're good strategy games, right? So.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I am quite enjoying my time with Advance Wars so far. Obviously, if you don't like turn-based strategy games, then this is not going to be for you at all.
Of course not.
But if you've never played Advance Wars and you do like turn-based strategy games, I would recommend at least checking it out on like YouTube or Twitch or
Something like that.
giving it a look. You know, it is a $60 game, I think. So, you know, not cheap, kind of, you know, standard price. You are getting two games in one, but it is a remake of two 20-year-old games.
Yeah.
So
We didn't add this on here, but Battle Network also came out this week. Well, I'm sorry, not kind of this last week.
I think it came out the previous.
It came out last week. Yeah. But so that was another remake. I think we touched on it very briefly.
We touched on it last week. Yeah.
That one, 10 games. 10 games, by the way. 10 games.
10 games, but really 6.
10 games. 10. All right. Spoon, Xenoblade, Wave 4. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's all me today, but yeah, I mean, I don't actually have that much to say about this. This is Wave 4 of the Xenoblade DLC, where we're actually getting like another like expansion campaign. This appears to be a prologue to Xenoblade 3. If you've played Xenoblade 3, you would know why. Yeah, there's some lore about at a particular location in the game about these like founders basically, and you see statues of these characters, and you know this like big fight that happened, and yeah, the characters that are in this are the statues in the main game. So
Okay.
Which is interesting, but it's also called Future Redeemed. So that to me means, or I would think at least, that there's going to be some epilogue aspect to it as well. Basically, where we'll get the ending that people want from Xenoblade 3, because I don't remember if I mentioned this, but the ending is very open-ended for Xenoblade 3, which I liked very much for the game, but it wasn't. It was conclusive, but at the same time, it was like, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen next, and it was a little bit bittersweet,
Yeah.
which some people didn't like for the conclusion of the trilogy.
Yeah, don't you want, if this is supposed to be the last one, don't you want it to be conclusive? I mean, like, if it's supposed to be the end point, don't you want it to, like, feel like when you close the book, you're like, okay, yeah, everything's been answered now. Don't you want it to be that way?
Yeah, and people are hoping that this DLC will kind of give them that, because this is also, so the main game only had like kind of vague. It was more connection than Xenoblade 2 had to Xenoblade 1, but
Mhm.
there were still only pretty vague connections to Xenoblade 1 and 2. Whereas they were saying, Xenoblade 3 is kind of being like the amalgamation of the 3 and the climax. This DLC is looking like is going to be the Avengers Endgame of Xenoblade, because Shulk and Rex are in this game, and Giga Chad Rex is a big meme, and it's amazing.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you can scan through the video and you'll see Rex eventually. No.
That's not him?
That's him. That's Rex.
This character looks way too cool to be Rex.
Giga Chit, and his voice is super deep.
Oh boy.
It's Giga Chad Rex.
Okay.
Like,
I was like, this character looks way too cool to be Rex.
yeah, that's Rex.
That's way too cool to be Rex. Should have kept it a meme. Oh my god.
But now I'm glad I'm here. Glad I can choose for myself.
I can't hear.
Just knowing who I'm meant to be fighting.
Oh, that was definitely Rex. Okay, yeah, it's a little bit deeper. Yeah.
I'll show them a thing or three.
It's like, okay, man. Okay, Rex. I'll show him a thing or three in the deepest voice. Love it. Oh my god.
So yeah, this DLC is very hype for the Xenoblade community. Obviously, we're getting our Avengers Endgame. Everyone is here. You've got Rex and Shulk. You've got there's a character. One of the characters is, her name's Glimmer, but she has the Aegis crystal in her chest. So it's like, okay, that's some version of like Pyramithra, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's there's a lot to be seen in here, and it'll be hype. I don't particularly like the shadow drop of this and the release window.
Yeah, they kind of just. I'm like, yeah, did they talk about this release at all?
No, this is the first. They announced this release date when this trailer came out, which was it was the
18th.
Tuesday. Yeah, okay, so it was Tuesday. So it was literally a week before. So it's not quite a shadow drop, but it's pretty darn close to a shadow drop.
Yeah, like that's pretty crazy.
And with all the stuff releasing around here, and even with Nintendo, like, Battle Network just came out, Advance Wars came out, Zelda's coming out in like 3 weeks. This release date makes no sense to me, but okay, I guess. Like, I guess Nintendo is figuring that. Well, my guess is Nintendo is figuring that the people who are going to play this either have bought it already, which is true. I bought the expansion pass, when the game came out.
Right.
So, or that the people who are going to buy this will buy this if they haven't already.
Right.
Right. So
Also, they're
they don't
probably
really
I don't know.
care about the release date in Zelda. But yeah, I've just got way too much crap that I'm playing right now with like Advance Wars. Battle Network is taking like I played it a little bit, but it's taking a huge backseat to like Advance Wars. I'm playing Trails to Azure right now, which we've talked about Trails before. Those games are exceptionally long and involved. Um, Age of Wonders comes out in like 10 days, and I want to play that. Zelda comes out in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
There's another Diablo beta, which we'll touch on in a minute, in a little bit, that's on the same day that Zelda comes out, and then Diablo comes out in June. Like there's just so much crap
There's a
coming
lot of
out right
stuff.
now that I wanna play. And this DLC, if it's anything like Torna, which was the Xenoblade 2 DLC, that game was like, it's not a full Xenoblade game, but Torna was like 25 hours for main story only and like 40 plus for like completionist,
For completion
basically.
stuff, yeah.
So for me, yeah, Torna took like 40 hours. So this is like another 40-hour, I'm assuming going to be about around 40-hour like DLC that I am going to play eventually, but
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of Azure right now, so I probably won't play this until I finish Azure. So I probably won't play it next week when it comes out.
There you go. I know I was thinking, I was like, man, they didn't really talk about this much when I saw this in the doc. I was like, why didn't I heard any of this? Like, Spoon has never talked about this. What's going on?
Yeah.
And they
I
just
mean,
shadow
they
dropped
I
it.
think they had one, and I think the last direct may have had a short trailer,
Right.
for it. Yeah, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, by the way, it's coming out next week." It's
By the way,
like,
next week.
okay, thanks,
It's
thanks,
like,
Nintendo.
okay, thank you, Nintendo.
I thought it was gonna come out over the summer, maybe like around a year after the base game came out, like in July or maybe August. That was what I would have guessed, and then they just do this, and
I mean, it's
again,
Nintendo.
the release timing to me makes absolutely no sense, but whatever.
It's Nintendo.
Nintendo, whatever. They don't care.
Nintendo does the weirdest stuff regarding their shadow dropping tendencies, and I just don't think they care with release date stuff unless it's a certain type of game for them. Like, this is a DLC, it might be different for them, but like for games, for their big first party, like big titles, they care.
Yeah, they spread them out. They
spread them out.
Sure.
They care. But for like, I don't know, maybe for DLC, they're like, it's DLC. Who cares?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And yeah, as I said, it seems like they were just like, yeah, I think they probably got most of their sales on this anyways, like already. People bought the expansion pass already, so
right. So they
don't
probably
really
just like
care
don't care
about the
exactly.
release date.
That's what I think.
But yeah, for me, the release timing is absolutely horrible for this.
It's terrible.
Really bad.
It's terrible. It's a terrible release window. Not just for Nintendo stuff, but for a lot of things. Like right now, this next 2-month period is really bad to release anything outside of like the big projects.
Yeah, because you've got like basically 4 huge games in 4 separate genres coming out in the next 2 months, with Zelda's first, Diablo, Street Fighter, and Final Fantasy.
And you have
all
Final
in the next
Fantasy.
all in the next 2 months.
You've got all this stuff. Isn't Redfall coming out too? Like there's Redfall.
Oh yeah, and Redfall's also coming out on May 2nd.
Yeah, but
I feel like that game that game's fallen out of favor after.
That game is starting to fall out of favor after the console 30 FPS thing, which is atrocious, by the way. That's still atrocious. Yeah, I think that game might have lost a bit of its popularity there. Considering like all these other games coming out have put their best foot forward. Redfall seems to have taken a few steps back. Anyway, any other Xenoblade thoughts? I have 0 thoughts on this, by the way.
Well, yeah, you didn't play. You didn't play Xenoblade 3. So.
0 thoughts.
No, I'm actually trying to. The Xenoblade Twitter has been like releasing a lot of like more information and like screenshots and stuff like that, and I've scrolled past some of it. I've looked at some of the art for the characters and stuff, but for this, as opposed to the base game, I'm actually I'm trying to stay a little bit like spoiler free on it, and I'll just experience it for myself. If you want to watch a 2-hour analysis video on this 3-minute trailer, you can find it on YouTube.
Yes, you can.
Because Xenoblade YouTubers are, like that.
Somebody's
but-
analyzed this 2-minute video, the 3-minute video, almost 3-minute video, over the course of 30 minutes, and I'm just like, come on. For me, I'm like, come on.
You are vastly. I mean, it's like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
It's not that deep.
It's not 30
It's just like,
minutes.
it's not that deep. It ain't that deep. Okay.